You know, it wasn't so long ago that planning a trip meant calling a travel agent and letting them do all the work. These days, in most cases, we do everything ourselves and hope for the best. It's up to us to find the deals and spot the scams. And that's getting harder to do as the travel and hospitality industries use AI to control pricing, design ads that are misleading or downright deceptive, and create new fees to bump up the advertised price. It's easier than ever to make a costly mistake. That's why we're here. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, a contributing editor at Checkbook.org.
Welcome to Consumerpedia at Checkbook.org. We're the nonprofit that helps consumers select services, avoid trouble, and save money. Because we don't accept any advertising or take money from any business we recommend, you can rely on Checkbook.org to be completely independent and objective. Now, here's the host of Consumerpedia, America's consumer expert, the Consumer Man, Herb Weisbaum.
Hotels, airlines, and rental car companies are all using artificial intelligence, AI, to boost efficiency and cut costs. But for travelers, this new technology can run up the bill and make you feel powerless to do anything about it. Back again this episode, our good friend and world traveler, syndicated columnist Christopher Elliott, who's still in Australia.
I am in a little town called Roseville, just north of Chatswood, and it's just north of Sydney. Really nice area, beautiful, kind of leafy neighborhood, and not at all what you think of when you think of Australia.
For those of us, such as myself, who have Australia on the bucket list but are just afraid of such a darn long trip in an airplane, what do you say? Is it worth going down?
Oh, absolutely. But if you do go, spend a little bit more time than most travelers. Carve out maybe 2 or 3 weeks. It takes about a week to get used to the time difference. And,
wow.
And once you do, it's great. There's a lot to do here, a lot of good museums, a lot of great walking, and the food is incredible too.
Or maybe stop in between and adjust a little bit and then head down to Australia. That might be another way to deal with the time zone changes.
South Pacific, yeah. I mean, Tahiti, Fiji are all good options. You can maybe fly from the West Coast to Fiji and then spend a few days there and then fly over to Australia.
Or as we learned in the last episode, maybe fly to Vanuatu and do a little bungee jumping and then head to Australia if you survive.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what we did, really. We flew from Seattle to Tahiti and then from Tahiti to Fiji, from there to New Zealand. So we kind of hopscotched across the South Pacific to get here.
All right, let's focus on how AI is being used to create new gotchas that travelers don't see coming. In a recent column, you wrote, quote, travel companies are quietly deploying artificial intelligence systems, creating an invisible web of automated billing that can cost you hundreds or thousands of dollars, often without your knowledge or consent. That sounds scary.
It is scary. You know, the poster child for this is Hertz, where you return a car and it takes pictures of your car when you return it and then runs it through an AI. And the AI identifies little dings and dents that you maybe don't even see. Then it charges you for them hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars.
And you wrote about people who had this happen to them.
Yes, it has happened to quite a few people, and it's really troubling because you don't know how to fight against it. In the car rental industry, you are guilty until proven innocent, which means if you can't provide the car rental company with photos that prove that your car was not dinged or dented or in some way damaged when you returned it, then you're guilty and you have to pay whatever they want you to pay.
It used to be the car rental companies cut you some slack. You know, there could be a little scratch on the tire. There could be like minor wear and tear. But now with this AI, they spot anything that's changed from when you got into the car at the rental lot. I mean, that's going to create a nightmare scenario with people.
It all depends where you're renting. For example, I rented a car in Athens last summer. You know, the roads in Greece are not always the best, so you kick up a lot of gravel. And when I returned the car, there were a couple of scratches that I noticed that weren't there before. And they didn't care because they knew that that's wear and tear. That's something that happens on the roads in Greece. Where we're hearing about it are airport locations where people will rent for a day or two, bring the car back, and then the AI will spot just a tiny nick here or there that wouldn't even be visible to the human eye. And there is no way that you can even appeal the bill that you get. My understanding is that Hertz has implemented more measures to allow people to appeal. But in the early days, it was, here's the bill, pay it or else. And this is really tricky, and something that a lot of people don't know is that a lot of times these claims will be just shy of $500. And you can probably guess what that $500 mark is. That is your deductible. So they know they don't want to get the insurance company involved. They just want you to pay.
The entire travel industry now, rental cars, hotels, and airlines, are all using computer technology, algorithms to do dynamic pricing. They price it higher when people really want the stuff and lower when it's not selling. But hotels are doing something that feels pretty sneaky to me and definitely controversial. They're using sophisticated sensor networks that go way beyond smoke detectors to try to spot guests who are smoking in a non-smoking room. Tell us about that, Chris.
Oh, yeah. This has been going on for a while now. But what's changed is that they have sensors now that are extremely sophisticated. They can pick up anything. Unfortunately, they have been picking up anything and mistaking it for cigarette smoke. For example, some of our readers have been experiencing, it's usually a $400 or $500 bill from their hotel for additional cleaning. And just for the crime of using the shower and the steam sets off the sensor, or turning the heat on in their room. So you really have to watch out if you are staying at a hotel. Ask about the sensors, maybe open the window if you're using the shower or turning the heat on. Make sure it doesn't create any smoke, because that smoke can set off alarms. Here's the other sneaky thing that happens is that they won't tell you. They'll wait until you get home, and then they'll just charge your credit card $400. So you really, again, another reason to get notifications from your bank is you want to make sure that you're monitoring the charges to your credit card. You will see a $400 charge, and no one will even bother explaining it.
Good advice. I spoke to several travelers who had huge charges added to their bills at checkout for supposedly smoking in their rooms. One of them, Lauren Quirk, who owns Travel with Character located in Calabasas, California, told me she and her husband don't smoke, and neither does their 9-year-old son, but they got hit with a $567 smoking fee at the checkout, proving a negative that you didn't smoke in the room when the hotel insists the technology is 100% accurate is impossible to do, she told me.
My biggest problem with this entire situation was that it was my word against a machine or an algorithm. And in the eyes of the management at the time, it appeared that they were siding with the machine. I was just met with the attitude that everyone lies. That was the quote that was said to me. And that they have to do this because everyone's going to go to the desk and say they didn't smoke. And I guess I'm a testament to the fact that everyone does not lie, because I didn't smoke. So there must be many other people that are also not lying.
So Lauren requested keycard data, Chris, and found that the sensor went off just minutes after they entered the room for the first time, having walked through the smoky casino to get to the elevators. Maybe it picked up secondhand smoke.
That reminds me of a time when I stayed in a small hotel. I was getting ready to check out, so I walked up to my room to get my luggage, and the cleaning lady was in there in my room, and she was smoking a cigarette.
Oh, jeez.
So I thought, well, if I get dinged for this, I know who did it.
Right. Wow. Are there any other ways that hotels are using AI to pad the bill?
Smoking is the big one, but there are others. We've been getting a lot of damaged televisions. The issue really is notification. I'm just going to say this. Your travel agent that you talk to, the hotel did the right thing by letting her know at checkout. But a lot of times, people don't find out about alleged damage to the room until they get a charge on their credit card. Really, that's when you know that the charge is probably not legitimate, because they want to just try to sneak a late charge onto your credit card without even giving you a chance to offer your version of events or show you the damage. People say, well, I don't smoke. I've never smoked. And you need to ask for an itemized receipt, a cleaning receipt of some kind, some evidence, either a receipt or a photo or something that shows the damage. And that's where most of these cases fall apart, is that the car rental company can't prove that you smoked in the car. I've actually seen images of cigarettes in an ashtray, but it didn't show the rest of the car or the rest of the room that it happened in. And there's no way for them to prove that you did it. I just handled a car rental case, actually, where the car rental company put a note on the dashboard that said, "sweet smell." And that was their evidence that someone was smoking in the car. And that's just not enough. So what happens then is that you dispute the credit card charges. And when it goes to dispute, the bank or the credit card company will look at all the evidence, and they'll look at this photo that says sweet smell, and they'll say, there's just no way, this is not evidence. Or they'll ask for the cleaning fee, an invoice from a cleaning company, like maybe someone with an ozone machine, and there'll be nothing. It'll just be their word against yours, and that's not enough to uphold the cleaning fee. If they can't furnish you with any evidence, then usually the credit card companies will side with you in a dispute.
Clearly, no one likes gotchas, no matter what the transaction, whether it's an automatic 20% tip added to a restaurant's bill with no notification or hidden airline, hotel, or rental car fees. So, Chris, the question is, why are these companies willing to treat their customers this way, knowing that some may be so upset they'll lose them forever?
Well, what you have to understand, Herb, is that we, the customer, we've been reduced to an algorithm. To them, we are something that can be predicted and manipulated. And so they have their AI systems that tell them how much to charge, how much we're willing to pay, even how much we would be willing to pay in terms of damages. And they are basically charging us whatever they think they can get away with. They've already built the possibility that we are going to not come back into that equation. It's all very machine learning, very AI generated, very algorithmic. They know what you're going to do. They know how much you're worth, and they're trying to squeeze the maximum amount of revenue out of you.
To me, it's very short-sighted.
Yeah, to me too.
Do you expect travel companies to find other ways to use AI to ding us?
Yes, absolutely. You have to imagine the guys in the yield management department are asking Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT, how can we further optimize the experience so that we get the most possible revenue from it? And so they're asking AI to help them come up with new fees or new ways of applying fees, or how much the market would be willing to bear in terms of fees. And so now it's become very automated. It's not just some bean counters sitting around and asking themselves, how can we make more money? Now they've got AI doing it, and that's the really troubling thing.
One way to keep you coming back, loyalty programs that keep us coming back even if the reservation's not the best fit or the lowest price for us. Chris is going to share his thoughts on that next. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man. You're listening to Consumerpedia, powered by Checkbook.org.
At Checkbook.org, we have the answers to your consumer questions 24/7. That's Checkbook.org. We're a unique nonprofit that can help you with select local service providers, avoid trouble, and save money. Because we don't accept any advertising or take money from any business we recommend, you can rely on Checkbook to be completely independent and objective. Our advice is always free. Ratings of local services are available with a subscription. If you live in one of these 7 metro areas and haven't joined Checkbook yet, check us out. Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, Seattle, San Francisco, Minneapolis-St. Paul, and Washington, D.C. Get your free 30-day subscription by going to checkbook.org/consumerpedia.
Loyalty programs, airline, hotel, and rental car loyalty programs aren't what they used to be. It used to be easy to rack up points and miles and, more importantly, use those rewards. Not anymore. Checkbook has long cautioned that people who get hooked on rewards programs often make dumb decisions in order to rack up the points or miles. Chris, in a recent article, you echoed that thought, writing, quote, somewhere along the way, these schemes stopped rewarding loyalty and started exploiting it. The programs that once felt like partnerships are now predatory relationships designed to extract maximum value while delivering minimum benefits. So how do you really feel?
Wow, did I really write that?
You really wrote that.
I really wrote that. Yeah, it's true, actually. Loyalty programs used to be, you flew on an airline a couple of times and then you get the free ticket. And now it's just not even anything close to that. If you want to use that free ticket, and I hate to call it a free ticket because you worked for it, it wasn't something free. You have to pay taxes on it, and then you've got to pay these carrier-imposed fees and fuel surcharges and everything like that. But ultimately, though, the balance has shifted to where the loyalty only goes one way. It goes the way of the travel company, the airline, the hotel, the car rental company. And that's why for most people, participating in a loyalty program just doesn't make sense anymore.
You said millions of travelers are now trapped in what you called loyalty quicksand. Yes, you said that. The deeper you're in, the harder it becomes to escape. Explain what you mean by that.
Well, it's harder if you, and I've talked to travelers before who are stuck in that situation. It's really difficult because you have maybe a preferred carrier. Maybe you're based in Atlanta and your preferred carrier is Delta. So first of all, you don't really have that much of a choice in airlines. But then you get into its loyalty ecosystem and you start spending and you say, look, how many more, if I just get X many more miles, I can get a free ticket or something else for free. And then you get the credit card and you start spending, and it becomes much more difficult to even get out of it. Like, let's say you do want to make a clean break. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? There's only one real airline that serves your airport that makes sense for you to participate in a loyalty program. You've got all your credit card points with Delta. You can't get out. And that's what I mean by loyalty quicksand.
What's the smart way to handle these loyalty programs? I have a membership with everybody I could possibly use. Is that the way to do it? Maybe it'll help me sometime along the route?
Yeah, that's one way of doing it. I mean, I think that if you're a frequent traveler, and I'm even going to say frequent business traveler, and you just have to be on a plane all the time, these loyalty programs were designed for you. You're spending a lot of money. Your company is spending a lot of money. You want to definitely be collecting all the points and miles that you can and getting your rewards. But if you're a leisure traveler and you have a choice in airlines, in hotels, maybe you're looking for the lowest fare or lowest rate, you don't want to be doing a mileage first or a points first purchase. You want to be going for the best possible ticket, the best possible hotel for you, and then thinking about the points and miles secondary. So that's really what you're doing, Herb, is that you're saying, first, the flight has to make sense for my schedule, and second, it has to make sense for my wallet, and then I'm going to collect the miles. But for too many people, it's the other way around. It's miles first. Am I going to get points and miles for this purchase? And then, does this flight make sense for me? And then the last thing, which really should kind of be the first thing, is, does it make sense for my wallet?
Do you see any changes coming to the loyalty programs? Is it only going to get worse?
It's definitely not going to get better. If we can agree that the loyalty only goes one way, there's another thing that I think everyone can agree on, which is that points never go up in value. They always go down. So the more points you accumulate, the airline or the hotel or the car rental company will find a way of devaluing those points. So they're in a constant state of being devalued. In other words, it doesn't make sense to hoard your miles. It makes sense for you to spend the points and miles as soon as quick as possible, because at some point they'll be worth little or nothing at all. So the trajectory is pretty clear, is that airlines and other travel companies are trying to make it as difficult as possible for you to redeem the points, but as easy as possible to collect them. They want you to be addicted to their programs. They also want to give you as little as possible in return.
You know, that's really good advice, because I know so many people who say, I'm going to save up these miles or points for 3 or 4 years and then take a free trip to Europe. It's not like a bank account. It's not getting any interest. All they can do is get devalued, and you have less for what you did for your loyalty.
It's true that loyalty programs, the points in your loyalty programs are constantly and predictably being devalued.
Up next, we're going to talk to Chris about gotchas. There's a gotcha for this and a gotcha for that, and oh yeah, there's a gotcha for that thing also. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, and you're listening to Consumerpedia, powered by Checkbook.org.
Consumerpedia Fast Facts. The first airline loyalty program is widely credited to American Airlines, which launched its A-Advantage program in 1981. It was a breakthrough in customer retention, and it quickly caught on. Within months, United Airlines launched Mileage Plus, and Delta introduced Sky Miles. Holiday Inn created the first widely recognized hotel loyalty program in 1983 called Priority Club Rewards, known now as IHG One Rewards. That same year, Marriott launched Marriott Rewards. Hilton introduced Hilton Honors in 1987. By the way, the largest hotel in the world is the First World Hotel in Malaysia. It has 7,351 rooms. For comparison, some of the biggest hotels in the U.S., like those in Las Vegas, top out around 5,000 to 6,000 rooms.
It seems like the travel industry is one gotcha after another, some way to make money, whether it upsets you or is fair or not. And Chris, you just wrote an article about that called New Gotchas That Travelers Never See Coming. What is the deal with all these gotchas?
A gotcha is a way for a travel company to make more money from you at the precise moment when you are at your most vulnerable. when you're checking into your hotel, or when you're returning your rental car, or when you're boarding a plane for a destination, and they know that if they have their hand out, you're much more likely to pay them whatever they ask for because you don't want your trip to be interrupted.
You have a few amazing examples in this article. You had Yasim Saidan, who flew from New York to Amsterdam, and a ticket agent weighed her carry-on backpack and charged her $30 for the backpack being overweight. I've never heard of such a thing.
I hadn't heard of it either. And after I wrote that story, it actually happened to me. I was flying out of Kuala Lumpur on Air Asia, which has a pretty well-earned reputation for nickeling and diming its customers. And sure enough, someone looked at me, pointed a finger and said, let's weigh that. And I had to pay an extra. It wasn't quite $30. It was something like $20. But yep, they're doing it. And like I said, it's right when you are at your most vulnerable. Like, you don't want to have to leave your bag there, and you don't want them to tell you that you can't fly that day. So you're going to fork over that cash.
So let me ask you this, Mr. Savvy Traveler. Do they explain on the website how much a backpack has to weigh?
It depends on the fare that you're purchasing. So some fares will include a backpack and I know.
See, this is insane. This is absolutely insane.
Yes, it's absolutely insane.
All right, let me give you example number 2. On her connecting flight, the airline tried to charge her for drinking water. Their card processor wasn't working, so she couldn't pay in cash. She had no euros. I assume this is Yassine again.
Happened to me. It didn't just happen to her. It happened to me. I was flying from Madrid to Buenos Aires, and on a very deep discounted ticket on Air Europa, and they came through the aisles and asked us if we wanted water. I said, yeah, it'd be great. I've been, sitting on the plane for the last 6 hours. I could sure use some water. And they wanted to charge. I think they wanted to charge more than €1 for it. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that.
When we go to hotels, I always ask, if it doesn't say complimentary somewhere, I always ask, is that water complimentary? Is the coffee complimentary? Because I'm afraid of that gotcha that might ding me.
Yeah, and the hotels are notorious for doing this. They have sensors. That little amenity kit area there, some of them have sensors in them. Definitely the mini bars, so that if you remove something, they know it and they just charge you for it. They won't even ask. It just gets added to your bill automatically.
Yeah, I had that happen to me several times when I used to travel to New York all the time for CBS. And I finally said I did not use it. And there's no question I didn't use it. And finally, after a while, they finally admitted there was a problem. It looked like the cleaning helper going on and taking the booze, and I was getting charged for it. But you have to really keep track of these things and make sure, fight it back if there's a problem.
Oh, yeah. One of the worst things that can happen is that water either doesn't have the label on it. Sometimes there's a label that said this water costs $5. Sometimes the label is missing. When you get to a hotel that might have these kind of predatory mini bars in place, is to ask them to empty the mini bar, especially if you're traveling with kids, is to say, look, we're not going to take anything from the mini bar. Please empty it so that there's no question about what was and wasn't taken. And then, you have an empty minibar refrigerator. You can put your own stuff in it.
So hotels don't weigh your baggage, but they certainly have a bunch of gotcha fees. And maybe with when you leave the room, tell us about the late gotchas.
Well, the early check-in and the late check-out fees, they've always been there, but they've never been uniformly enforced. And so what's been happening is that after the pandemic, that was a real trial by fire for the hotel industry. And a lot of hotels didn't survive, or they had to be sold and got reflagged. And anyway, so there's been a lot of financial pressure on the hotels. One of the ways that hotels knew that they could make additional revenue was by enforcing the late check-in, late check-out fees. So you'll get charged, $30 to $50 if let's say you fly into a destination early, you're there, and check-in time isn't until 3 o'clock, and you're there at 10 a.m., and you really just want to take a nap. They'll say, for an additional $30, we'll let you into your room early. Same thing for check-out. Check-out time usually is 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. If you have a flight leaving at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll say, hey, is there any way I can stay in my room longer? They'll say, yeah, for an additional $30 or $40, you can stay in your room until 2 p.m., And so that's how they're making extra money. Usually it's something that is negotiated, but a lot of times it's unsaid, which is to say, if you call the front desk and say, I need a late checkout. They'll say, sure, no problem, without telling you
Oh.
there's an additional charge. You won't find the charge until you get your credit card bill.
Right. Oh, man. Well, if you have status with a hotel, you can do that. That's one of the benefits. And we were talking about loyalty programs. The reason why I have an airline credit card is there's one airline I fly all the time, and that gives me free baggage. So that's one way to get around the horrendous baggage fees they're charging now. So I don't worry about the points or whatever. I use it to get rid of the baggage fee when I travel. So that's something to keep in mind.
Well, the baggage fees are another huge gotcha. They're all up to around $50 for the first checked bag. That's way more than it costs the airlines to transport your luggage. It's almost all pure profit to the airlines. And it's also another way of nudging people into their loyalty program ecosystem. So get a credit card or become a frequent traveler. It's a little bit unfair, but that's just the way the system works. You have to, first of all, be aware that these luggage fees have gone up to the extent that they are. So you may pay more for your luggage fee than for your airfare, but also a nice reminder for the summer to pack light.
Exactly. Carry-on's the way to go. Before we finish up, let's give people some advice. Your article ended with some advice on how to avoid the gotcha fees. First of all, you say do your research carefully.
Right. You have to, because they're not going to disclose what these gotcha fees are. That's why they call them gotcha fees, is because you get them at the moment when you least expect them, and you have no choice but to pay.
If you have a question, don't be shy. And I think I would add, don't assume.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of people only fly occasionally or only travel occasionally. So maybe their memory is stuck somewhere in the 1990s when things were very different. If you are not a frequent traveler, get acquainted with what the current practices are, and that way you won't be surprised by what happens to you.
And your final tip is know your rights.
Yes, I mean, you do have rights. That's what this podcast is all about. And you have consumer rights, federal and state, sometimes local rights. Mostly, though, the overarching guiding principle here is that there are laws against unfair and deceptive practices. If you think that your airline or hotel or car rental company has deceived you with one of these fees, you do have rights. And one of the most powerful weapons that you have is the Fair Credit Billing Act. You can dispute the charge on your credit card.
And you ended the article with some great advice. You said, don't reward a travel company with your business when it slams you with a gotcha fee. That sends a message that it's okay to charge you a low price and then ambush you with a surprise fee, and that leads to even more fees. I would suggest not only don't go back, but write them a letter and tell them you just lost a customer and here's why.
Yep, that's great advice. Letting them know. Nothing speaks louder than you refusing to do business with a company again. That sends a very clear message that you're not going to tolerate that type of behavior. But letting them know too, in maybe an email, is very helpful, because those emails do get up to the very top level and they factor into decisions that are made about fees.
Chris, tell everyone listening where they can find you on the web and the resources that you have available.
You can find my website, The Elliott Report, at elliott.org. I also have a newsletter, elliottconfidential.com. And we help people who have any kind of consumer problem, not just a travel problem, at my nonprofit organization, which is elliottadvocacy.org. And if you go to elliottadvocacy.org/help, you can fill out that form, and we will try to help you if we can.
Chris, this has been so wonderful talking to you. Enjoy your stay in Australia and safe travels for the rest of the year.
Thank you.
Before we go, a few more travel-related episodes you might want to check out. Number 106, avoid a vacation rental nightmare. Number 89, avoid a hotel horror show. And number 41, Hotel Intel, finding the best rates. Well, that's it for now. I hope you'll rate this episode. It's really helpful. And follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Remember, we release new episodes every other Thursday. Here's another way you can support this show. Follow us at Consumerpedia on Facebook and Instagram, at consumerpedia.org on Blue Sky, and at My Consumerpedia on X. You can find me at consumerman.com. I'm Herb Weisbaum, always looking out for you. Until next time, be smart and shop wisely.
Consumerpedia is a public service of Checkbook.org. We're a unique nonprofit that helps you save money and make smarter choices. You can count on Checkbook to help you find the best services and avoid the worst, with local ratings that are accurate and unbiased. If you live in or around these 7 cities and haven't joined Checkbook yet, check us out. Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, Minneapolis-St. Paul, Seattle, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. To get your free 30-day subscription, go to checkbook.org/consumerpedia. Consumerpedia, empowering consumers to save money and make smarter choices.